The journey of a podcast, a relationship, a story, an epic saga, a plan, a concept, everything has a kind of beginning, perhaps fuzzy at first, but that which thereafter takes shape, becomes vivid, colourful, multifaceted, and then takes wings and soars. Traci and Amber have produced some of the best online content I have ever heard. And what is fascinating is just how much of themselves, authentically, genuinely, and completely, they put into what they do. The Road to Tar Valon podcast is a staple of my week. I'm so happy that Amber and Traci took the time to have a chat with me, and we covered so many topics that relate both to themselves and the story, the podcast, how to organize a podcast, and the commitment and attention to detail, and so much, so much, so much more. Sorry, Amber, I couldn't resist. Thank you both, and I look forward to the next opportunity. And oh, by the way, I've also added a bit of unscripted stuff to the end of the podcast, and I hope you enjoy that too. When we did, and I was so pleased to be on your show. So when
Aw.
you guys didn't warn me that, when you do this thing, I'm here with my friend Amber, and then Amber says, I'm here with my friend Traci, yeah?
Yep.
We do it every time.
Do it every time.
Yeah, which is brilliant. But I didn't know that actually, I thought you did that afterwards and you recorded it and and I was listening to this and I thought, oh shit, what do I say? Do I have to keep quiet?
Maybe next time we'll be better with our directions.
No, I loved it. It was brilliant to be there in that moment to listen to you, because I've heard you guys say that about 60 times now, and it's just great to be there and witness it live.
Now I don't think we
Thanks.
know what to do if it's not, like, if we don't
Right?
introduce ourselves, we don't know how to start, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, until that gets said, it's like, where are we? What are we doing? What's happening?
Yeah.
Do we have a direction today? Yeah. But, like, once that happens, we then, like, dive into our outline that we create and get going, and it's just really fun.
Mm. But I mean, who came up with that for the first time that you did it? Did you plan that, or was this another one of your sort of spontaneous magic moments?
It was planned, but I don't remember how we came to it.
I remember it being, we both felt kind of weird being like, "Hi, I'm Traci," or "Hi, I'm Amber,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "What if we just introduce each other?" And then it was just like, and then that is our intro every time, and it's
Yeah.
so nice. It's almost soothing. Like I know I've mentioned it on episodes before. I'm like, those are like some of my favorite words every week. And this is the road to Tar Valon, and off we go. So good.
But if you meet somebody for the first time and they say, "So okay, so who are you?" You say, "Yeah, I'm here with my friend Amber," and you don't say, "I'm Traci."
This
My
is
name
my
is-
friend
I'm here
Traci.
I wave awkwardly from the corner. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a comfort thing, I think.
Yeah,
Like,
it was.
part of, and I mean, that's another thing that I think is really valuable about like working with Amber is that like our first episode, she was like, it's just a phone call. It's just a phone call. And like kind of keeping that in the back of my mind prevents me from freaking out whenever anything goes public.
Well, Traci has done podcasts before. I had not, so
Yeah.
I think she was initially a lot more comfortable about it than I was. And then, of course, the first time listening to your own voice, it's like, oh,
It's so
do I
weird.
really sound like that? And then you get used to it.
Yeah. You just accept the fact that you have a flat Midwestern accent and you roll with it.
Yeah.
It's so boring. But yeah, there is that initial awkwardness and there's still nerves sometimes kind of depending on what we're doing, but like there's also kind of a freedom in doing it with Amber. Like I trust her. So like when something breaks my heart or just makes me so angry, I'm just like, you know, fist shaking in the air and trembling, and she's right there with me, like, or helps calm me down because I need that too. Yeah.
We've definitely had impromptu mornings for you, afternoons for me, phone calls like this happened and I can't believe it.
It was so fun.
Luckily, I was going to say, luckily, we haven't had any of these accidents where maybe the recording hadn't started, an hour in or something like that.
Yeah.
And I've heard people
Mm-hmm.
talk about that, and I think that's my biggest fear.
Same. Our stuff is so backed up. Like it's on an external hard drive, it's on Google Drive, and there's a copy of it on my computer. Like, and I'm pretty sure Amber probably has copies on her computer that she's worked with as well. So like I am terrified of losing any of our files. It's the scariest thing to me because you can't recreate it, you know? Like, I don't know. You can definitely come back to conversations over and over again, and we definitely have topics that we're still beating the hell out of. And I don't mind.
But this is also
uh,
a thing about podcasts, isn't it? I mean, essentially, you're recording a conversation between two very good friends about a
mm-hmm.
topic you're both absolutely in love with, and this is something you can revisit every time. And I often remember, so many cool evenings I've had with friends. Yeah, and nobody will ever, sort of witness
Yeah.
them again. But here you guys are recording it.
When you put
Yeah.
it like that. No, I think
Yeah.
everybody thinks back to moments like that in their life, like that night that this happened and someone said this and
Mm-hmm.
it was the funniest thing that ever happened. And yeah, we're just talking about a really, really long book series and hundreds of characters within this book series. So, I mean, sometimes I wonder, like, am I ever going to get sick of talking about this? But
Right?
the books are
Same.
so long that I don't know. I mean, there are people still talking about this book series how many years after they were released?
30.
Yeah.
I have the 30th anniversary edition of the Eye of the World. And I
Oh
like
wow.
kind of it was mind bending in a way because I still remembered reading that as a teenager, and then I'm like, oh my god, it's been 30 years. Damn, like it just didn't feel like that much time had gone by, and I really loved that the book still held up for me. Like from being a teenager to being in my 30s and 40s, it's like stuck with me, and it's held up. I still enjoy it. I still love it every single time. I still want to talk about it, and I love talking about it with Amber because we both geek out about similar things but catch different things at the same time. So like the appreciation for like what the other person brings to it is like real. You know? It's like, yes, tell me more about cisterns.
Yeah. It's it's really strange too reading like buddy reading, so like going
Mm-hmm.
through chapter by chapter with another person and she'll pick up on things that just kind of whoosh, go right over my head. And it's interesting like what detective work the other one of us is doing.
I
Yeah,
love
and I
that.
mean, you alternate chapters as well, don't you? So you do like
Mm-hmm.
4 chapters at a go,
Mm-hmm.
and you alternate chapters. And sometimes it's occurred that Amber has read, or it's her role to report on a particular chapter, but you love that chapter, Tracy. So then oh, but I want to talk about it too. And
Yeah.
but the thing is, you never have any of these, crazy, sort of conflict moments. No, no, I want to talk about you. It's always is good tempered. You're always so friendly, and it doesn't
Do
sound
people
like this.
behave that way? Am I missing out on something?
Yeah, I don't know. People, I tend to find people are quite, yeah, I don't know, antagonistic towards one another, especially over time. But you've been doing this now for over a year. You had
Hmm.
your first anniversary, as it's last a couple of months ago.
In August.
Um, yeah, and you don't have any of these problems, as in, or your editing is fantastic. Either way, I don't know.
Thanks.
Our editing is fantastic. We work very hard on that. Um, I think one of the things that Amber and I have going for us, as far as like our connection is concerned, is we've worked together before. Like that's how we met was through a job and then realized we had so many similar obsessions about things and it was just like we've somehow managed to foster a friendship for over what, a decade? Easy?
It's close to 12 years, I think.
Yeah, like oh God, I think about you and Aiden at Lush.
Yeah. We worked for a
So
company
cute.
that I don't want to call it a cult, but it's like a cult of soap. Like a
Right?
soap
Yeah,
cult.
totally. I was in it
But
deep.
Tracy's son was just like a little boy at this time, and now he's a man, he's an
Yeah,
adult, and
so
it's just
weird.
it's wild.
Yeah. So, like, having had an experience of working with Amber in the past, I knew her work ethic, I knew her charisma, and I knew her dedication. And I was like, if we join up, we can do this, and it's going to be so fun. Like,
Yeah,
let's make something.
we talked about it. It was, I mean, the pandemic was here, and Tracy had mentioned missing podcasting. I was like, we
Mm-hmm.
should just do it. And we were thinking, like, what about topics? And I don't remember. I think we had already just been calling each other off and on to talk
Mm-hmm.
about the Wheel of Time because we had caught up after it had been a couple of years since we had talked. And I
Yeah.
had mentioned, oh, I'm just kind of starting this really long book series. And the pandemic had started, and I was just trying to keep myself busy. And Tracy was like 14 books long, and I'm like 14 books long, and it was like that immediate like, oh my gosh, we both know
Yep.
exactly what the other person is talking about. And then we
Yep.
were calling each other every week to talk about what I had read, and
Mm-hmm.
Tracy had started rereading.
Yep.
So we were kind of just like going over all of this stuff, and we were like, well, what if we just record these phone calls and do the podcast?
Yep.
And that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah. And it was so fun. Like, I think part of it being fun was we were like, this is such a niche topic. Like, what is our audience size going to be? And I mean, we knew the TV show was in production, but I mean, I don't think it's been until the last month that I've realized the amount of money Amazon Prime is throwing into this television series. Like, oh my God, it's like 10 million an episode that they're investing into it. So, like, that feels kind of weird because I am seeing what's happening already. Like, there is it, and maybe I'm just like living in my own algorithm world. Thank you, Google. But I see lots of Wheel of Time, and like I see other content creators' numbers going up and reaching numbers that they haven't reached before. And I mean, not to brag or anything. I mean, it's on YouTube as it is, but our reaction video was over 4,000 views in a week. Like, what the hell?
And we
What
and
the
we and
hell?
we haven't really done YouTube, so we were like, let's
No.
just, throw this up there and see what
Yeah.
happens. But I think the hype is unreal, and it's it's so for me what's going to be so much fun is watching people who have never read the books interpret the TV show on their own. And to me
Ooh,
that's it's just
yeah.
I don't know, like it feels so like quaint and cute, and I'm really excited to see how people feel about it that have no
Mhm.
understanding, no knowledge of the books. It's gonna be fun.
I agree.
I mean, I'm still surprised when I encounter people and I speak to them and I mention Wheel of Time and they're lost. You know, they look at me quizzically. And I grew up with this, so you know this for me is extremely personal. But you know, again,
Same.
isolated. You know, so I isolated myself not deliberately, but purely because I didn't know anybody. So as I
Mm-hmm.
said the last time, and Tracy, you picked up on it in a later episode. You know, with when I talked with you both, that was the first time I'd had a really sort of deep analytical dive into the Wheel of Time, and I kind of ended the session with you thinking, "Oh, that was great," but I was a bit speechless
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much that remains unsaid, no
Yeah,
matter how much you talk
yeah.
about it.
It's true.
When you're
It's true.
when you're researching, just I mean, you can look at a chapter, read it, and think, okay, this point right here, maybe this is a callback to something that happens later or previously, and you go down this rabbit hole and you get lost in it. And that's just, I mean, that's sometimes one of the hardest things about preparing for an episode is like
Oh my God.
reining yourself in because
Hmm.
you we usually record for about 2 hours, and
Hmm.
we've recently kind of tried to like pull it back a little bit just because of the
Hmm.
amounts of editing every week.
Yeah.
And still sometimes like I'll look at the look at the clock and be like, Tracy, we've got to wrap it up quickly.
And that's why sometimes it's like, oh, and we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's nice chatting.
last orders at the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly.
But I mean, again, just you know, you mentioned so many different content creators out there, and you know, I've listened to yeah a couple others, and there are so many that are wonderful. But you do have this unique approach, which is just you know the road to Tar Valon, and I don't, you know, I can't necessarily put my finger on all of the unique elements that comprise what you do, but you know,
We're Taviran.
Do we
The
need to
secret's
explain
out.
that to people who have no idea what we're talking
yeah,
about?
No, they have to watch this show now, or they can come listen to our Taviran episode. We did a whole episode on plugging our show.
please do so because it's brilliant, and yeah, I would quite happily just continuously reference your podcast because even if people don't know the book, it's so entertaining listening to the way that you do it. So it's clear you guys have so much fun. I mean, that has to be one of the foundations of the reason why you keep doing it, no?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
actually, like when things get like stressful and it's like 2 a.m. and I'm just posting our episode on Tuesday, and it's gonna publish like a minute and a half later in Germany, and then I'm gonna go to bed. Like, on moments like that, it can just feel really hard. But we always pull back to the this is for fun. If we're not having fun, if this is hard for us, we need to find a way to adjust it so that that remains our core principle
Yeah.
is it's fun, it's entertaining, it's compassionate when it needs to be, and snarky and downright rude sometimes. I mean, we're really nice but we're not at the same time.
I don't
It's a
think
good
we're
balance.
rude.
Oh yes, we are. I'm talking about to like characters in the books.
Mm.
Like we have ripped
Okay.
apart
Yeah.
characters in the book.
This is true.
Like in our community, like especially our Discord community, no. We are not rude to a single person there intentionally. Text can sometimes be hard. I don't think I've offended anyone
No,
yet.
I've been.
It's coming, guys, just
Yeah.
wait.
Amber's told me off a couple of times because I've posted in the wrong room, and but
I didn't tell you. I'm trying to be. Yeah, this is something that's been a challenge because with the show coming out, there are people on our Discord who haven't finished the book series yet.
Yeah.
So I have to make sure that any conversation that might potentially lead to a spoiler maybe
Mhm.
go somewhere else. And the first time I had to tell someone, be like, "Oh, I'm gonna delete this, and you're gonna have to rewrite it over here." I'm like, "Oh, this is like I don't like this feeling, but it must be done."
Yeah.
You're stepping up and protecting people, but it's difficult to do.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Discord channel, because I only learned about Discord through you, and to be honest, I had to rewind the podcast. Rewind is very 1980s. Um, I had to click the backward 15 seconds button a couple of times to get the actual word Discord, and then find out exactly what the hell
Mm.
Discord is. So then it took me ages to actually click the link and then go into it, and you're like, oh God, hello, you're here. Um,
yeah.
but you are really so welcoming, and but your Discord, I mean, is that representative? It can't be of other Discord communities, because everybody is really nice and yeah, I think respectful. I mean, do you have experiences of other
Oh, I
Discord
agree. I
channels?
agree with you that.
There are some Discord channels that are massive, and we're talking about thousands of members.
Mhm.
It's not the same. I mean, I think ours is like a nice, comfortable size. It's not too
Mhm.
big, but we have people that have been around for almost a year. So it really is just like, oh, hey, like everybody knows this person. And if me and
Mhm.
Traci aren't there, there's usually another person that kind of jumps in and can be the
Mhm.
welcome wagon if maybe I'm
Mhm.
asleep and Traci's editing. Snakes and Foxes is one of the people that's been on our Discord for a really long time, and he's kind
Yep.
of, yeah, he's really good with that. It's
I
nice
love
though.
that.
We have a woman in our Discord that found out she was pregnant recently, and she's like, "I'm letting you guys know, and my family doesn't even know yet." And after she told me that, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" It's like so much a big love fest sometimes.
It
Not
is.
to say that
It's
it is always like that, because we do have some snarky people on there too. So,
Yeah, but I mean, that's reflective
it
of a normal community, isn't it, in many ways?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the other things that I've noticed that I like about our Discord channel is there's a wide range of ages. Like, I don't know if we have anyone in like a teenage
we
age zone.
we could. There's,
Maybe.
I mean, some people completely anonymous. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, I know for sure we have like from 20s into 50s at least. And I just think that that's so nice because it shows the ability to create connections through this medium of a book series. I mean, yeah, we have plenty of channels that are dedicated to the Wheel of Time, but we also have, like on our Discord channel, we have one dedicated to baking, we have one dedicated to uh, gardening and your yard and green things that grow. We have one that's one of my favorites is Glory to the Builders. Like, and everyone for that one is like pictures of architecture and stuff that you find like as you're wandering around wherever, and it's just fun. Like, it allows people to have an expression and a safety that I don't feel is available in social media. Like, I feel like Discord is a safe space. Like, our Discord, I feel like, is a safe space. I don't really have a lot of energy to be on anyone else's Discord. I save it for ours. Like, I have to have boundaries, and taking care of the people in our Discord is like a priority. They're wonderful.
I mean, you touch on an important point. That one of the things which really draws me into Twitter of time, it's not okay. It's nowhere near as friendly as your Discord channel is, obviously. Um, just to point out. Um, but they seem to be a lot more, how can I say, welcoming than other Wheel of Time communities on different platforms. So again, I haven't experienced these other platforms necessarily, but it's just from what I read by some of the comments that other people refer to.
it really depends. It really depends. I mean, there's I've been on, so on Instagram, it's really lovely. Like there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of really, really nice people on Instagram, and there's a giant role playing Wheel of Time community on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and they're great. Uh, Facebook, I've heard that some of the bigger Facebook groups can be quite, there's a lot of bickering, but I mean, I've found a couple smaller Facebook groups that are really, really nice. There's a Maidens of the Sword group that's smaller and really cool. There's one called Cold Rock's Hold, which is really sweet as well. So I think I don't want to say that like Facebook always gets a bad rap, but there
Mm-hmm.
are certain bigger groups where, you know, if you have hundreds of people going at it over a character that someone just hates and bickering about it, it's not fun for anyone, I don't think.
Mm-mm. And I do have to say, it is really unusual to have the conversations in our Discord unfold the way they do. Like, there easily could be like contention and whatnot built up around it. The fact that we can have someone go totally off and be like, I absolutely hate this thing. And instead of somebody being like, well, I hate your opinion and you're wrong and blah, 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 they're like, okay, well, tell me why. Or they come up with like a silly joke and like kind of poke fun at them. But it's like family poking fun. You know, it's goofy. It's not hurtful. It's not shaming the person for their opinion, you know? And like, I don't know how it happened, but like, it's such a nice place. It's such a nice place to visit.
No, I check in on your Discord quite frequently, actually. I don't always contribute because, I mean, that's just my way. I like to read and listen to what the mood is in some ways, trying to just keep on, on the pulse of the debate. And it's great to see so many different reflections. I was going to ask before because we're talking about how friendly people are or not necessarily on social media. I do recall, Traci, you once told me that do you remember when you had your first hate message? Was it? Do you remember that you told me about this months and
Oh,
months ago?
it might have been Amber
It might have
Was it
actually.
been
really?
me.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
okay.
she was the one who shared it with me.
Ah,
Someone added us on Twitter, and it was, I think maybe this person had been drinking a little bit and just kind of like smashing the keyboard and telling me everything they hated about us. And I was just like, okay, I guess we've made it. We've somehow offended some random person out there. So,
Enough for them to like hate type us, you know?
yeah.
Like, we're now successful.
Yeah.
Isn't that what ranks you up there? Is when like people start like hating on what you do?
yeah. Well, on
Yeah.
publicly accessible content. I mean, okay. So sorry, Amber. So you came across that first, and obviously shared the experience with Traci. I mean, other than okay, the humorous way in which you took it, you painted the picture of this person's level of yes drunkenness. Um,
Sobriety
yeah,
or
or
lack
lack of
thereof.
exactly. Yeah. Um, but I mean, I guess you were probably shocked at first, no, to get that kind of a message. How did it make you feel initially?
Immediately after reading it, my blood was boiling. I messaged Traci and I was just thinking, I'm gonna wait to think about if I'm going to say anything back. And I
Your
think
reply was so good.
they they took offense to me saying that two characters had probably met earlier on at one point before. This is really silly. Like me trying to explain this, it's so dumb. But I couldn't even understand what they were angry about at
Mm-hmm.
first. So I think maybe 15 hours after I had read it, I just responded with like, a meme of someone with like question marks, like little question mark bubbles popping around their head. I just wrote, "Are you okay?" And they went through and deleted everything. So, unless they just blocked me, which could be the case as well.
Yeah. And I think that's probably fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. But
Yeah.
it's there's a level of sometimes there is a level of kind of like putting yourself out there can be a little bit scary sometimes.
Mhm.
And I mean, in this example, it's not like we were getting like death threats or something,
Right.
but it's always a little bit weird to kind of be like, wow, someone is really feeling a certain way because of something I said, and
Mhm.
it's crazy to think about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I hope you don't experience that kind of thing on a regular basis because that would be terrible, very discouraging. Even though, as I've said, I mean, I was sort of I was about to get to it anyway before, but that your podcast, it's I told you, I think I said on Discord. So as when I go running, I listen to the Road to Tar
Yeah,
Valon, yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, so to be honest, sometimes I randomly start laughing while I'm running, and people people look at me, think, "What minute? Look at him, he's half dead and he's laughing." Um, and it is very it's like my companion, and so yeah, other podcasts don't have that same effect. It's just basically where I'm trying to get to.
I'm gonna I'm gonna start crying.
But okay, that point then. So when you did your live, because the reaction videos that you did, and then I think last week I also mentioned, I tried to do like a descriptive text of Amber when she was,
Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
then you did
yeah.
this. On my really like budget acting is so much, so much, so much, And I thought that was so. There was so much depth to it, Amber. It really took you, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's yeah, there were moments where I couldn't speak. I was
Mhm.
trying to form words and it's just like there was a block between my mouth and my brain and just feeling so many emotions, but I don't think that there has ever been like a television series that
Mhm.
where I'm just watching a trailer where I felt like affected like
Right.
this.
Like weeping affected.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's just something about this story that's so big. I mean, it's like an epic. It's
Mhm.
like it's so encompassing and it's just cool. What a time to be alive, right?
Right.
Am I right?
You are. I think it's that Jordan has a really amazing ability at making his characters feel real and relatable. Like, I love to hate read Elida. I hate her, but I love reading her character. Like, when you can pull off something like that, you've really got something special. And like so many of the scenes in the trailer, like fucking Faldara. I mean, seriously, I still feel affected. I can see it in my head without even having the trailer in front of me, and I'm like, that is exactly how I picture Faldara. You know, like the grimness, the gray, the starkness, the straightness, the layered up and defensiveness of it. I was just like, this thing that I first saw in my imagination when I was a teenager is suddenly on a screen in front of me and there's dramatic music and oh my god, someone's got top knot. I am crying. I'm
Yeah.
crying. Like that's what it was. It was just and oh my god, the end with Egwene. I had to not like I had to compose myself to not just sit there and sob. Like at that last moment with her in the trailer. Like that was hard. That was like heart got ripped out.
But I mean, because you only just started doing the YouTube channel, didn't you? And
I think we're just a little over a month.
yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
But I mean, you both have different styles clearly in the way that you communicate. So the type of words that you use, the tone, the drama, yeah. And so I mean, you know, yeah, Amber is a bit more soft spoken, perhaps, yeah, but and Tracy's a lot more like boom, yeah, as in you're I mean both of you obviously have these, I mean the variation is cool, of course, and I watch your reactions, which is obviously the whole point of the video, and it's
Right,
just
yeah.
great to see the difference, and I wonder, have you had, I don't know, some kind of drama history there? Have you done acting before?
Um, well, I
I'm so sorry. Suddenly, Moira Rose has just popped into my head, and I feel like I need an outfit change and a crazy accent.
a new wig.
Yeah.
Um, I was kind of working with a couple people in my hometown, and we were doing a public access show for fun
I
as
remember that.
teenagers, and it was ridiculous. And no, I will not say the name of it because,
Because it's online and you can find it.
yeah, exactly. So we'll leave that there. I'm sure if someone really wanted to do detective work, they could find it, but
You're not going to
it
make it easy for them.
yeah, but for me, it was mostly like writing, like what would be funny in this moment. And I didn't ever want to be on camera, was the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am with my face on the computer. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Hmm.
I actually do have a background with acting and directing. Um, I was part of a Shakespeare troupe for like 7 years. Um, and it was really fun. We did, what was it? We did Taming of the Shrew and flipped the genders. So it was the girls chasing the guys, and we put it in the 1950s. So we had like poodle skirts and leather jackets and greased back hair, and like it made it so much easier to do the costumes other than like having it like traditional or whatnot. But whatever. I did that, but I do not think I'm a very good actress. Like I've sometimes felt like I got cast because I was like one of the few people who showed up and auditioned. Um, but I do like I love doing Shakespearean plays. I thought it was really really fun. There's something about
The
the
drama of it all.
yeah, like I was in A Midsummer Night's Dream, and I was one of like the lead actresses, lead characters, whatever her name is, and like I loved every part of it except for when she like woke up from her nightmare. I always felt really fake about that. Cuz like the way that I would naturally wake up from a nightmare was very different from how our director wanted us to do it, and I was finally just like I'm not doing it that way. It doesn't feel right. um and I think that's one of the things that does actually really come back to how we make our podcast is like it is authentic reaction. Like just because we
Yeah.
have experience doing something like this doesn't mean that it's like in any way staged, you know? Like keeping that this is for fun, this is just a phone call. It's just Amber I'm crying in front of and that's okay.
Yeah. If you think about other people watching you,
I
it's
like
too
lock
scary.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, "Oh god, what do I do now with my hands, with my face, with my hair? What do I do? What do I do?" But if I just think about it like just another chat with Amber, it's great. It's great. And it's easy to get lost in that. It really is. Like, especially after doing this for so long. Like, I pop on my headphones, I grab my mic, and we go. And it's so much fun. It's so much fun. And that makes it sound so easy.
Yeah. That's all it is. It's not hard at all.
No, no, we never have to edit anything. We're perfection the first time through every time.
Yeah, yeah.
Lies.
I know, right?
But I mean, there are clearly
No.
degrees, though, aren't there, of production? Because I mean, what I do is extremely simplistic. But you go through all of the different editing elements, and then on top of that, you've added YouTube too, which is it's really hard, I think, to do a video and audio edit. I don't know. I've never done it. I can imagine. And yeah, I mean, how do you do the administrative element? So do you sort of separate the tasks? Does one person do it? How do you organize it?
Divide and conquer for the most part.
That's really what it comes down to a lot of times. Is like I'll take video, Amber will take audio, and we'll each grab the files and break them down and cut them. And a lot of times it's then passed back to the other person, which is fantastic because it's always nice to have, especially when you've listened to something. I don't know how in depth you are with your editing, but like sometimes I'll listen to the same episode at least 3 times before it's actually published. And when you hear it over and over again, it's easy to kind of like miss things that someone who hasn't listened to it yet will catch. And so I love being able to be like, this video seems too long to me. Can I kick it your way and have you like suggest trimming spots or whatever? Or if you want to cut
Take
it
a
up, that's
hatchet
awesome.
to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you are so good at that, and I appreciate it so much. Um,
I will say, I think Traci has an ear for background noises and anything that might sound a little bit off, like keeping all of the audio really clean and perfect. And I think I'm mostly listening for pace.
mhm.
So I think we both kind of are, might be one side of the
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the brain. So
Mhm.
it's interesting to see what she catches and I miss and vice versa.
This last edit was super clean, by the way. It was really good.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I loved it. I got to clean my whole bookshelf while I was listening to it because I was like, I'm gonna be close to the computer in case I need to like do anything. But great job.
Do you ever like go think about going back to some of your earlier podcasts from the road to Tar
Oh
Valon
yeah,
and
and burn them.
yeah?
No, not at all. They're perfect. Exquisite.
Oh my god, it's so funny. I went back and was listening to like our first New Spring episode because we talked so much about New Spring in the episode that we're going to release tomorrow. And it was so funny because I was like, our audio is off. Like, this just doesn't sound right. And I can pull the files in and clean them up and whatnot, but I was like, I don't know if I want to do that with all of our New Spring episodes. And I mean, really, I think even like the very next episode, it was like way cleaner. And so we've been able to like keep boosting and maintaining our level of quality, which can be really difficult. I mean, how many different softwares do we use per episode? It's got to be at
4.
least 4 or 5. Yeah, like so we've had to, and I mean, when we started, I did all of the editing because, like Amber said, I had experience with that. But then Amber taught herself how to edit because she was like, what happens if something happens to you? I need to know how to do that. And like, it was like she took an episode and off and running and she kicked it back and I was like, you're amazing.
I mean, it only took probably 48 hours to do
But you
2
still
hours,
did
but
it. You still did it, and it was just incredible. Like I've worked with people who are like, "Oh, I want to make a podcast." This is nothing against anyone who has actually said this to me because I will seriously help you if you want to start a podcast. But I've had several people who are like, "I want to do this. I want to start a podcast." But if you want to have a podcast, you have to be consistent. You have to be determined. You have to have somebody who is able to match your pace and have your back at the same time. And that dynamic can be really difficult to find. Like,
I wouldn't be able to do this with anyone else.
I know,
I
right?
mean,
Like,
I swear to you, it wouldn't be possible.
it's
And I
true.
mean, there are things that are especially challenging for us. The
hmm
time difference.
Yeah.
Tracy's in the US, I'm here in Germany, this can lead to some confusing things.
Like
Maybe
me
some,
being late for this.
well, I'm talking more like mostly about if there's a problem with something,
Mm-hmm.
maybe Tracy's asleep. There's nothing I can do at that point
Yeah.
except just kind of
Twiddle
like
your thumbs and wait. Yeah. Yeah, that does happen. And I think we've done a really good job of managing those challenges and finding a way to communicate to each other so that in the event that something like that happens, all the tools are available for the other person if they need them, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
that's
Like
true.
I'm not as good at Canva as Amber is, but I at least know like the rudimentary functions of it and can like pull something off and pull something together if I need to. But most of the time, like she's got everything up on Google Drive for me, so I can just pull it from there into my computer, use it, and then upload it again. So it's finding it's finding organization while you're constantly on the run and constantly learning something new. And oh yeah, you still have a life outside of your podcast.
Really? I mean, yeah, because I mean, you guys are always on. I mean, Discord. I think any hour of the day. It's I think you can expect one or other or both to respond to questions or come up with your own comments. So you do put in a lot of time outside of the podcast into the community.
We do. Yeah.
That's a lot of work. I mean, you talked about dedication, but I mean, also consistency. I've done. I started this year. I've done quite a few podcasts, but I cannot say to myself every Tuesday or every Sunday or it doesn't work. I mean, I go through occasions where it's like 10 days I've done nothing, and I remember one Friday I had the day off. I did 3 podcasts in one day, and
Wow.
yeah, I was really knackered at the end of it. But as in
I
Yeah.
was going to say I'd be exhausted.
just to say that I don't have the discipline of continuity with regards to day and time, but you guys are almost, you know, Swiss clocks, aren't you? Because there's a
The
Fuck
transformation has become
yes.
complete. I am now 100% German. We're lucky in the fact that we mostly just work with one another. So if we were out looking for guests every week,
Yeah.
that would just be an entire new element and it would make things a lot harder to stay
Mhm.
consistent.
Yeah.
But I mean, for us, it's just like a standing date every week.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
but it requires dedication, and
Mhm.
obviously you're being humans. You're also prone to the occasional illness. Somebody gets a cold, somebody else has a headache, and yet you manage to.
knock on wood. Don't
Tracy
jinx
needs
us here.
Tracy needs another tapering steroid treatment. Fuck. Just kidding.
No, but I mean, a whole year, you managed to do this, and I mean, it's a lot. And also, you've committed yourselves to 14 years because more or less, the books. Um,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and don't forget the TV
oh,
series.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because that's totally derailed us from the Great Hunt right now, and I am sad because I love the Great Hunt, and I was super excited because it's Amber's favorite, and I was like, yes. But then it was like the show's coming out, and these trailers are coming out, and like the hype in my heart right now is for the show, and like we decided we're just gonna take a break. Like we're posting tomorrow our podcast and video and everything, and then we're gonna take it easy until the 19th
Mm, yeah.
or whatever day it is that this is happening on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's exciting. It's exciting. Like I sometimes I could not do this also without like the support of my entire family. Like if my headphones are on, it's generally an indication just please don't talk to me. Like I'm probably working. It doesn't stop Arthur or the dogs every time, but for the most part, my family is really respectful of it. But I have to put boundaries in place so that this doesn't overtake my entire life. Like, I love doing this. There are a million different ways that we can and do branch out to make this happen in like an almost all encompassing way. And it's fun. It's fun. Like, that's what I love about it. And my family is just like, my husband's always like, it's so cool that you have a global audience. And I'm like, right? Did you ever think that was going to happen? And he was like, yes.
I think that, I mean, I'm still like pinching myself when I see like 60 countries and
Hmm.
of people from 60 countries. I'm like, wow.
It blows
Um,
it blows my mind. It blows my mind every time. Yeah.
Yeah, but I
It's
mean,
weird.
but that's the appeal that you have, and I mean, it's only going to grow with the TV show when it comes out. I can't imagine that
I
not
sure hope.
happening. I can't imagine it not happening because I mean you've also got we mentioned before this the unique approach which is the content, but the road to Tar Valon. So that it's not you're not simply putting it up. This is okay. Wheel of Time podcast. No, it's a road. Yeah, you're selling it. It's a
it's a
journey.
journey.
Exactly.
It's a
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah, and
We
people.
get lost. We have shitty maps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're just tired and want to hang out at the inn. Like, and I love that. I know, like, Amber and I both like to travel, like, going other places and seeing other things and experiencing the world around us to its fullest extent. Like, I think that's another thing that helps us pull together in seeing different things in the series that other people don't see. Like the fact that Amber lives in Germany and can talk about walls, like protective city walls, compared to like walls that we talk about in the book series or even what we saw in the trailer. Like that's so cool. I think that's very cool anyway.
We do, I mean, we tend to have a lot of topics like
Mhm.
crossover that we're both passionate about. So it comes out in the books, in the
Mhm.
podcast. It's not always just about the Wheel of Time. I
Mm-mm.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just
our real
thinking of
lives
all
bleed
of
off
like
into it.
yeah, thinking about all of the bizarre things we have geeked out over. And it's been really fun. And I love that like Jordan was a historian. Like he loved history. And I it took me 15 years, but I finally got my degree and it's in history. Like being able to read through the things that he has in the books is really fun because I'm kind of that person that's like, if it happened after the Industrial Revolution, I'm kind of iffy. And the way that the book is written feels very like Middle Ages up to the Industrial Revolution period, as far as history goes for the Western world. And I mean, I'm sorry, that is my area of specialty. So, like, I don't have a lot of experience with like how that's spread in the Eastern world, but you can see it in the books. Like depending on where you are, the region that you're in, and then Rand introduces like universities and people start creating things. Like there is development and growth in the series. It is just never sitting in one place, and I love that because it is a reflection of humanity and what we do and what we try to accomplish when we come together for a specific goal. So I love a good story.
It is there are this part which is this element which is a little bit incongruous in that you've got these people who they're essentially magicians, sorcerers. They can open a gate and step through to a completely different part of the world, and yet they put a train together and people are wondering what's that, and it was
Yeah,
one minute, this can't be the same community surely, but it's there, isn't it?
Mhm.
it's wild to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but I do see there is an element of the West, the Wild West there as well. Okay,
Mhm.
no sort of revolvers, as it were, but I mean, you know, Matt is
This is not Cowboy Bebop.
no,
Is that
absolutely
what
not,
you
no,
mean?
no. But
Okay.
Matt's a cowboy, right? I mean, he has to be,
He
isn't he?
is. Yeah, yeah,
His
he
hat,
is. Yeah.
a scarf around his neck.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Matt fan. I just am.
But
Yeah.
I find he's, for me, he's my favorite character. But yeah, everybody can associate or in some way with a bit of Matt because he's naughty, isn't he? And he's full of life, and he doesn't take anything too seriously, even though he's in a crazy situation. Um, yeah, that's just Matt.
He's got that just mischievous, good natured character to him.
Yeah.
He stays innocent all the way through, more or less, doesn't he? As much as he's
Oh.
discovered the world, he still has that element of innocence about him.
I think I agree with that. Tracy might
Yeah.
not as much. We talked
No.
about it in our last episode. It was
Like,
actually your question,
mm-hmm. Like character
but
development. Mm-hmm.
hmm
No, I can see that actually. Like, of the three young men who leave from Emmons Field, Matt goes through a lot, but somehow he almost maintains the same level of being jaded and still having hope for something better. Like that part of him, I feel like is consistent the whole way through, and it does give a sense of innocence. That's so, I had never thought about that, but I think that that's accurate. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I like him so much. Like, he's a touching character for me. I don't know why
Mm.
exactly.
But I mean, we talked on the show that you so kindly invited me upon. We talked about lots of gender issues and lots of these other topics. So I will put another link into your general channel so that people can go in and listen to a new spring and all of those things because it's important to get that sort of the background to how you created or you began or took your first steps on
Mm.
the road to Tar Valon. Um,
yeah.
but I mean, new people who are going to come to the show, there is a bit of a concern, isn't there? Because I mean, even today on Twitter, somebody uploaded a picture from, I think it was the Radio Times, and the media advertised the Wheel of Time as Amazon's answer to Game of Thrones. And my immediate response
Yes.
was, if Wheel of Time is the answer, what the hell is the question? Yeah, because as far as
Mhm.
I'm concerned, this isn't a competition with another piece of content. This isn't, we're
Mhm.
not saying this is better than that and so on. No, there's more than enough room within the genre to satisfy
Mhm.
all of these different worlds. Can we not simply appreciate the Wheel of Time for what it is, as designed by
Hmm.
Robert Jordan?
Mhm.
Yeah, there's room for all types of fantasy and science fiction. It's just that it took this blockbuster of a show for people to be like, oh, I guess I do like fantasy. So, of course, there's always going to be that comparison.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be, but it's always going to be there no matter what happens.
Mhm.
And to me, that's the terrifying thing is what if the show is just okay? What if it's
Mhm.
not everything that I've maybe imagined that it could be? So that's kind of terrifying to think about as
Yes, it
well.
is. Yep.
But from everything that we have seen, I mean, I wouldn't cry watching a 3-minute trailer if I didn't,
Right.
like
Yes.
I wouldn't lie and pretend to like something
Mm-mm.
if I just thought it was
Meh.
meh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. I think we've already discussed the possibility of hate watching the show. Like that could
Yeah,
happen.
what happens to our podcast if it bombs, if the show is awful? Then what happens?
Then what do we do? We just keep talking about the books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be like,
I
back to the
don't
Great
think,
Hunt, guys.
yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen,
I
but
don't either. And I mean, I think if Amazon wanted to pull this off as a big fantasy show, it is inevitably going to be compared to Game of Thrones. And I remember reading an article that was talking about how Wheel of Time will be compared to season 8 Game of Thrones, which was like crazy budget, and
The
that was what,
writing was like the
yeah,
budget was up here, the writing was a little bit, down there.
subpar.
Yeah,
But for them to like for Amazon to pull off a successful show, they have to come out season 8
swinging.
Game
Yeah,
of Thrones
budget at least.
budget. And they did it. They did it. And I am not in any way like I feel like I should be nervous, but I have watched this trailer like so many times at this point. I feel almost silly. But each time I'm just like it's real. It's going to be here. I have I have wanted to see a version of this book be real for literally decades. And I think that they have done a really gorgeous job from what I've seen so far in the actors that they've chosen, the architecture that they've chosen, the wardrobes that have been chosen. Like, there's just so much about it. Like, the fact that we see so much of New Spring just in that trailer, I was like, ah, bring it. I'm so ready. I'm so ready. Can't wait to see it. One of the things that I did want to mention, because like gender has been a topic for us, was I was thinking about the Mists of Avalon recently. I can't remember who writes it, but it is the telling of the Arthurian legend from Morgan Le Fay's point of view. So from a woman's point of view, as opposed to what we usually get, which is Arthur, one of his knights' points of view, and maybe Guinevere every once in a while. Um, but it comes across as a very different telling. And I think that what is happening with the Prime, with like Amazon Prime, is that they're giving more Moraine Damodred's version of what happened. So this is the same story. It's just a different point of view. It's a different point of view chapter, if you will. And I
What's interesting about the series, as it starts off, the points of view are mostly male.
mhm
As you get towards the end of the series, it flips and becomes more of an average point of view from one of the women characters. And I think it's still hard for some people to wrap their heads around
mhm
thinking, like, how does this change? How is the story from book to TV show? How is it going to be shown?
mhm
And there are people that are worried about things, that have fears, and it's kind of just, for me, I'm trying to just kind of like put my feet up and wait till I actually can see it.
same.
But I think they've got just a powerhouse of a cast.
Oh my god.
There's so many actresses and actors in this show that I'm just like, wow. Okay, so Rosamund Pike is pretty much amazing at everything that she does. And in one of the little short clips that they had given us, I was listening to the clip and not even paying attention to what they were showing.
mhm
And just her voice alone, it, I feel like this woman is a storyteller herself. And I
mhm
think that she is just, she's going to give everything she's got into
Yep,
this character.
for
And
sure.
for a series that is as female driven as the Wheel of Time, I think that they've got like a good head.
Mhm. Yeah. It's thrilling. It really is. Like I've never been this excited for like a TV show or a movie or anything like ever in my whole life. So this is, I mean, it's kind of like I think you touched on this before we started recording, but when I was reading this as a teen in like the mid to late 90s, anybody who was like into fantasy or sci-fi got kind of like clumped in with like this weird idea of being a nerd or a geek or whatever. Um, but I remember like kind of keeping like, and it's hard too because these books are massive, but I would like try to keep my book hidden so like people didn't know, because I mean those covers were just like a blatant sign I'm reading a fantasy book, and I
If you
didn't.
want, I'm sorry, I have to say something. Some of the German covers to The Wheel of
Oh
Time
my
are the
god.
most ridiculous book covers I've ever seen in my entire life.
I would never hold those books. Like, I've seen those covers. No, thank you.
They're
I.
very, they look very 80s, a
Mhm.
lot of nudity. I mean, if I were sitting on the train, it's probably something that I wouldn't
Yeah.
want people to see me reading.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know. I didn't talk to anybody about the books because nobody else was reading them. And then when I got older, it was just like kind of off to the side. Like, I still had all my copies of the books up to like book 10, and that's kind of where I stopped for a really long time. And it wasn't until Arthur was born in 2014 that I like got back into the series fully again and just like read it while he was awake at night, and I was like hoping to fall back to sleep. But I don't know, this series has just been with me for so long. So long. And I am so far not even a little bit disappointed with what I've seen for the show. Like, I love the changes that I've seen so far. Go
For them
ahead.
to adapt something that's like an epic, it's like a modern day Odyssey.
It really
And
is.
they're trying to fit this massive book. I think maybe the first three bits of the first three books into 8 episodes. That's yeah, that's gonna take some masterful work, but it's exciting.
I mean, you have
Mhm.
to be
I
brave as
agree.
well. I mean, the
Exactly.
change. If you
The
make a change to
bravery.
anything, I think the easiest thing would have been to stick religiously to what Robert Jordan had created.
Mhm.
However, to take the step to change it a little bit, to adapt it, to make it more representative of modern sort of social structures, it's
Yeah.
still really brave. And I'm really
Mhm.
looking forward to seeing how they do it.
I think it's actually that bravery that makes everyone working on the show so good. Like, I feel as though from what we've seen both in the occasional interviews with the people who are involved with the show, and then also the teasers that we've seen, like, there's not a single one of them that comes across as inauthentic or unbelievable. Like, it feels like it's going to be immersive quickly, and I'm really excited about that. So,
They just released a new clip,
of
like
course
right
they
now.
did. Of course they did.
Yeah. Hmm.
How funny.
Wow.
But we're
See,
not
this is
chasing after clips right now. We're
no, we're
resting.
not. We're
Nope.
not.
We're going to take it easy.
Mm. But Amber, before you mentioned, and because I asked, oh, let's pause because I want to come back to a point of that. But you mentioned the release times.
Mm-hmm.
And you were going to also, so where did this come from? What was the problem behind it? Some Australian issue or what?
Well, there was someone online that had just asked Prime Video Australia what time the show will be released at. So they gave them this estimated midday. So now everybody's been checking their time zones, and it appears to be that Europe will get it, like German time zone will probably end up with a 2 a.m. release on the 19th, and the US will get it, that would be technically the 18th in the evening, later afternoon. But just, just this one little bit of information had made it out onto Twitter. And then, of course, there's hundreds of people trying to do the math. Like, okay, what time does this mean for me?
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, it's not 100%. Don't take my word for it. Wait for Amazon to say something. But yeah, it's exciting. There was um, a little bit of dialogue between Rosamund Pike in the Telegraph today, and I think I've been cracking up reading this, but it's just something that I thought that was really interesting. But she said, Some fantasy fans have dubbed the Wheel of Time feminist fantasy because only the women characters are able to channel, which is their type of magic in this series, the world's magic powers, including Pike's warrior, Moraine Damodred. And she's speaking to the Radio Times. She says, "You see many more naked men than you see naked women, which is quite pleasing, since women have been asked to expose themselves forever and a day." I think this is so much fun. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I love that she's just putting herself out there and making this kind of like witty retort about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is kind of like flipping the narrative from Game of Thrones,
Mm-hmm.
where how much female nudity did they have on that show compared to men?
Yeah.
And so now I'm just thinking about this and I'm like, wow, Wheel of Time, like you're not holding anything back now, are you?
Very little, apparently. Um,
Yeah, very little.
A washcloth amount. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Where do I put
yeah,
this?
yeah.
I was just thinking that, like, for me, one of the things that I find incredibly appealing about the series is the lack of gratuitous sex and or violence against women. Like, it is not a happy, fun series the whole way through, of course, we know, but I appreciated, especially when I was younger, like, I
I think too
appreciated that
though,
it was. Go ahead.
I think it's in there, like it's
Mm-hmm.
really in there, but you have to read between the lines.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, there are some very like monstrous things that happen to
Absolutely.
characters. Like this
Mm-hmm.
is not a happy la 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 like
No.
sunshine series. Like there are things that are just dark.
Devastating.
And if you're a little bit younger, it's
Mm-hmm.
easy to not read and pick up on all of these little things.
Yeah.
But I think if you're an older person, maybe not a teenager, you'll know when it happens and
Mm-hmm.
it hits you hard sometimes because you really don't expect it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm listening to the audio book of the last few books, actually, and I'm on, I think, Towers of Midnight at the moment. So,
Mm.
and when you said before as well about the perspectives of some of the female characters, you sense that a lot more by listening to the audio book, because obviously then there is a
Oh,
female voice
interesting.
that narrates it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Whereas when I read the book, obviously it's my voice which is prevalent in
Yeah.
my mind. The audiobook
Mm-hmm.
really pushes it home that actually, no, there are lots of parts, maybe even 50-50, I think, as you said, Amber, where the women are, or the women's voice is then represented. And that's absolutely great. But what I also found highlighted is exactly the point there. What happens to Morgas
Mm-hmm.
later on?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is exactly though the point that you were making. That is a person being raped there, and the first time I read it, I didn't think there was that level of abuse.
Same.
Yeah, it
Same.
Mm-hmm.
only came to
Mm-hmm.
me afterwards because, oh, 1 minute, she has a conversation then with Galad, because he said, well, I only killed Valda because I thought he killed you, and yet clearly that's not the case because you're here. And but she said, no, he deserved it. Trust me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Mm.
Yeah, I did. By the way, great fight scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew. Oh man,
Yeah.
Mm.
good one. Yeah. I do, and I think that's what I appreciate about it. It's there, but it's not shoved in your face. It's not the thing that pulls you in, or it's not the thing that shocks you. It's a reality, and like the grimness and realness of it is right there for you if you can find it. Like in that moment, I'm pretty sure Morghese is considering suicide, you know? Like she's obviously being abused in a very deep way, and you don't really kind of like have that reaction. At least I didn't. I was the same way. Like I didn't quite fully understand what was going on, and then as an adult, it just like it hurt so much more understanding what she was really going through. So I don't know. I think that's another thing about the books. You can just keep growing with them. You can identify with different characters. You can find out something different. Like, I hate the white cloaks, but Amber was like, look at all the political things that happen with the white cloaks. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. I like them now, but I still hate them.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, I mean, what you say there is very telling in the case of Morgas. So the psychological impact of the episode, I only, again, something that I reflected upon on this occasion while listening to the book as opposed to simply reading it. For a long time, she disappears within
Mm-hmm.
herself. She's no longer
Mm-hmm.
a queen in her own eyes.
Mm-hmm.
She relinquishes the title, of course, but then she's no longer queenly. She becomes a servant. She becomes
Mm-hmm.
subservient to other people. Is this the result of the impact of what she had to survive at the hands of Valda? Is this what happens? This is her own sort of victim syndrome. She withdrew into herself, and that was how she protected her character. Um, I don't know.
I think what's amazing about this Morgay storyline, and I know Tracy brought this up previously, so this was her observation, but there's something really interesting about this kind of like stereotypical queen in hiding or
Mm-hmm.
like princess in hiding undercover.
Mm-hmm.
And in Morgeza's case, she can't say who she is. She's she would be an immediate target.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is just one of the reasons why she doesn't make a case and try and like get back to where she's from
Yeah.
and get back to her old self. I think there's many deep reasons why, but what you're saying I think is probably one of them. And we've got a character who is just all grit, and Morghese is just, when you think of one of these like strong queens from our own history, like this
Mm-hmm.
is Morghese. She's completely broken. She doesn't know where her children are. She
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know what's going on with them. And she's also had a very, I don't want to say like bad, her previous marriage was quite awful.
Yeah.
She had one person maybe that she kind of cared for and counted on, and things
Mm-hmm.
got so bad between them that she says if you ever come back, we'll kill you. Like she's very alone.
Yeah.
And I think for her storyline, being reunited with her, I don't know if I want to say this because this is a very like big spoiler, I guess, but finding part of your past out there in the world is, I think, what she needs to change things.
Yeah. Yeah. I I like how she doesn't try to step in and like push Elaine out of the throne later on. If I Is that okay for me to
Yeah,
say?
yeah, don't
Okay.
worry.
Um okay. Like she's willing to be like, you know what? I would really like to work on myself right now. I have a new husband and I like him. So we're going to hang out and do the husband wife thing and have fun being queen.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I'm out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Like I feel like that is the first moment where Morgase actually gets to do what she wants to do. You know, like
And there's probably some pride there too, of like her knowing like her daughter is capable.
yeah.
And I feel like as a parent, like that would be an amazing feeling, like watching and
It
and knowing
is.
and knowing that you don't have to step in.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that way about Aiden. Like he's very responsible and makes good decisions in my opinion. Like I'm pretty proud of him and I feel like confident in what he will choose to do. And I just want to be there and be like, I got you. Just keep going. Keep going. You got this.
Mm. And as you say, Morgas. I mean, in the scene where she kind of is revealed for who she is, having
Mm-hmm.
been hidden for such a long time, she is referred to. She's not just a queen; she is the queen. She's like the queen of queens. That's
Yeah.
how big her personage is within this realm. She is special.
Yeah, Andor is huge. I mean, as far as like nations in the Westlands go, Andor's
I think the
I
biggest
think it's the
army.
biggest one. Yeah. Like
Richest,
and they
I'm
maybe.
not sure, like, economically, if they can rival Tar Valon, but I'm sure
Mm.
I'm sure like
they.
their resource level is high enough
It's
that
high.
they
Yeah.
like yeah, because you know you have like those sections where Elaine and Gowan and everybody are like, what are the resources of this region and blah 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 and like so you do pick up on like the fact that it feels really real when they're like talking about economic advantages and
Yeah.
resource gathering and whatnot and you're just like, wow, it's so real. It feels so real. I'm so glad you're talking about this because I would be like, why aren't you talking about this?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say like after the Amerlin seat would be the Queen of Andor because Tyr doesn't have they don't have a king.
No.
Camelin has a king.
Amadecia has
uh,
the white cloaks.
Mm.
yeah,
Saldean has
regardless
a
of the fact that
queen.
they have a
Mm.
Saldea. Yeah.
Mm.
but they do not pass down directly to a male or female in Saldea. And in Andor, it's always to a daughter.
Mm.
Like it's as far as I am aware of, it is the only system that is set up that way in the Westlands, where it goes directly from the mother to the daughter. So it's a matriarchy system as opposed to a patriarchy system. But then like in Saldea and most of the Borderlands, if I'm not mistaken, like it's just whoever's next in line.
Okay.
You know, it doesn't really matter if it's a male or female, it's whoever is next. And they're all kind of trained for that. I mean, even Fail is like, oh, I know all of this weird shit because my dad trades ice peppers. Yeah, that's it. You
Yeah.
know, like Fail knows all kinds of shit that she wouldn't need to know if she weren't going to be expected to potentially at some time in her life take charge
Possibly.
as a
Yeah.
leader. Exactly. And then when she does get the opportunity to be that, you're like, damn, girl, damn, impressive.
Mm.
Like she comes out as like this strong, intelligent, capable character, and I love it. It wouldn't have happened if she weren't like part of a noble line in the Borderlands and had been trained for something like this. I love that about her.
When do you think you're going to get back to the grunt, as you both like to refer to it as?
The Great Hunt. This is why sometimes we keep our bloopers in the
Right? Because
podcast.
it's funny.
um, it really depends. I don't know how long people will want to be talking about the TV show, how long
Mm-hmm.
that burnout period might be.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to kind of play it by ear and see what feels right in the moment.
Yeah.
But I mean, we do have ideas where maybe just for a whole episode, we want to talk about the set locations and the
Mm-hmm.
architecture, or possibly just exploring more of the costuming and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's been really interesting to see what they're pulling from,
Yeah.
because the books kind of have more of a medieval, like lots of embroidery feel, and we've got Rosamund rocking some pants
And
now, so
suspenders.
and suspenders
Let's not
even.
forget that.
So
I
yeah,
must have missed that one. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to go back and have a look at these trailers then. But yeah, because I mean,
That one was really good.
yeah.
Yeah, it was just it was a short one, but it was really I enjoyed it.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you've talked about outfits, you've talked about obviously architecture. You really pull
No.
up. Yeah, terrible, isn't it? And this how can you forget the cisterns, which you alluded to earlier? Um, but I mean,
I am proud of spreading that knowledge, damn it.
I can't stop quoting you every time I go to the toilet now. But It's
I love it.
yeah. I mean, the trailer or one of the trailers that you did your recent episode on. It's 2.5 minutes, and you analyzed it for an hour and a half. Was it? I mean, on the 19th they're going to drop 3 episodes.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Die.
Yeah. We're still kind of working out what our battle plan for that is going to look like. Because, like,
It might just be go as long as you can, and then when we're done, when we can't do anymore, say, all right, like,
and we're done.
yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, work through that and then come back to it. I think we're looking to turn reaction videos out pretty quickly.
Okay.
Um, but you're right. Like we went through that trailer like frame by frame, and I told Amber the other day that like I scrolled across a thumbnail on YouTube that was like 10 things you probably missed in the Wheel of Time trailer, and I was like, I doubt it.
Yeah.
I was like, no, we were thorough.
But the trailers really felt like a love letter to the book readers, though. Just there's so many kind of like nods and little Easter eggs, and it was cool.
Yeah. Like I don't know if somebody who hasn't watched the series would understand the layers of emotion that are present in that trailer for somebody who's read all of the books. Like like I said, I was nearly sobbing by the end of the trailer just from like Egwene's answer to Perrin about whether they would ever get home again, like if they would ever see it again. And I was just like compose yourself, Traci. Come on now. It's just a trailer.
I'm still. I think I mentioned the first time I saw the original trailer, and I'm still. I can't get Lyanna Sedai's expression out of my mind.
When she's
Yeah,
pounding
yeah.
this, yeah,
That's just the best facial expression in. Yeah.
she's gonna be the darling of this TV show. She is just she's an ass kicker. I think she does some type of martial arts training for her role in Van Helsing, I believe. But I think she's going to be one to watch. She is just a firecracker. I'm so excited.
But I mean, I'm sure they're going to change the story arc for her because she can't become that person who is represented in the story later on, can she? Realistically, she's just too. I don't know. She's
Right, you can't start her off at like 10 and then yeah, I see what you're saying. I think she's just going to be a little bit more reserved, like she'll be feisty, and that's maybe kind of like all you'll see from her, and then maybe we'll peel back some layers as things go on.
But I mean, people.
don't
I think
know.
people will look at her and say, "That is a powerful woman. That's what the kind of character I want to have." And then if you get to
I
like
agree.
Yeah.
series 42, yeah, and then all of a sudden she's in front of the mirror, and
Doing your makeup.
yeah, and trying to flirt with the men and so on, and that would be really disappointing, I think, for some people.
I think they could do it if they show us just how cunning she is, because of course you don't want to just paint her as a flirt and a pretty face.
Yeah.
So if they're able to keep her kind of political intrigue like rising along with using kind of like her femininity as a weapon, then I think it'll work. But yeah, you're right. I'm sure it's something that they've had to talk about in the writers' room, because you don't want a character like that to fall flat, because the potential there is high.
Absolutely.
I actually really love the Leanne flip in the books. I love it. Like, I love the idea of her going back to her culture, her own culture. Like, when women come to the White Tower, a lot of times their culture is left behind. And Leanne chose a path that was not representative of the way that most Damani women behave, but she'd been trained for that. And she had been trained for it so she could basically befuddle men into trading like stupidly with her, you know? And so when you hit a wall and everything you've relied on is just suddenly gone,
Stripped. Yeah.
yeah, like she's been stilled. She's seeking anything, and she sinks into what her mother taught her, what her aunts taught her. And I think if they can like show her using this in a way like maybe there's a montage of her learning this as a young woman with like older women around her and talking about it and encouraging her, and something that shows that this isn't just her putting on a pretty face, it's
And two, she
her
needed
reaching for
something to hold
something.
on to
Exactly.
in this
Yeah.
moment.
Mm.
Yeah. That's how I see it. It's like she's doing what she knows how to do because she wants to survive, and she is a survivor.
Mm. Yeah. No, no,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I see the strength in that as well. Obviously,
Mhm.
it's just, yeah, that first facial expression is so powerful for me. I can't
Yeah.
see it
So
being
powerful.
different. It's I don't know. Yeah.
I think someone made it into a GIF. So, like, I've been places where they're just like playing it on repeat. And I'm like, the Leanne love is already strong.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I follow the actress that plays her on Instagram, and it's just so fun. Like she does a lot of videos of the training that she does, and like there was like a choreography one recently for like a battle that she was in, and it was just I love that people can do that. I can't do that. But I love that other people can, and I just sit in awe and like watch like the
I'm
ability to
very,
just be.
I'm very excited for the athleticism of the
Yeah.
cast
Oh my
because
god. Have I
it's
mentioned my crush on Daniel Henney yet?
You have a crush on
Has
Daniel
has
Henney?
does anyone does anyone not know? Good lord, they had pictures of him from like some sort of photo shoot recently, and I was like, share. He's just a beautiful human, and the way that he comes across as Lan, like the little bits that we've seen, I'm like, all right, Nynaeve, I get it.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
get it.
I mean, but you knew these, so both of you, I guess, knew a lot of these actors from before, as in, or not? Because
Mm,
I only knew Rosamund
not
Pike.
really.
I'm not familiar with any of the other
Mm-mm.
actors.
No.
Rosamund Pike was the only name that I
Mm-hmm.
recognized when I saw who had been cast. And then from that point, it's just been kind of like familiarizing yourself with other things that they've done.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, it's fairly unknown actors and actresses.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting like going back and saying, oh, okay, well they played this role on this TV show,
Mm-hmm.
and watching a little bit of it and being like, okay, like I think I see what they're doing here,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, I really hadn't watched anything that Rosamund Pike was in, and then I watched something that said that she was the main actress in Gone Girl, which I had heard of, but I'd never watched. And so I was like, okay, well, I mean, that means I'm going to get a lot of screen time with her. I want to watch this. And oh my God, that movie is really good.
Cold blooded.
Ha! I was like, she's got this. She's got this. Like, after watching that, I was like, I just felt really good about how Moraine was going to be portrayed. I feel wonderful about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really happy, as you said earlier on, that they really are going strong on the Moiraine character, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how they deal with the long storylines
Mm.
between Maureen, as it were, if you know what I mean, because
Yeah.
Mhm.
she's the
Mm-hmm.
anchor of this opening session, and
Mhm.
what's going to happen?
I'd imagine they're just hoping that at that point the
Mhm.
show is just full steam ahead
Yeah.
and carrying its own.
Mhm. And I can absolutely see that with the cast that they have built right now. Like,
And too, but there are characters who we don't know who's been cast for them yet. So I mean, I'm sure they could potentially get other big name actors and actresses in there, especially as time goes on, if the series does really well. But
I
we'll just have
really
to wait and see.
I want the actress that plays Avasarala on The Expanse to be Cat Swain. I really do.
Have you ever watched this show,
The
Zach?
Expanse. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
So good.
Yeah, I
Okay.
love it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And the problem that I had was I loved it so much I went crazy and watched the first three seasons in like one weekend, and then
Yep.
I had to wait a whole year until season 4 came out. And then when season 4 came out, I was completely lost. I was like, oh God, I don't know what's happening anymore because I had to wait an entire year.
Rewatch.
Yeah, I haven't yet done it, so I've still got seasons 4 and 5 to go through of The Expanse, but I have to watch number 1 again. And, yeah, yeah,
Go right
So
through.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
good.
That's
We
another show I like to come back to. Like, oh,
we see a lot of the actress Shoray that plays Avasarala. We see her as a
Cat
Cad
Swain.
Swain character.
oh my God, she'd be so good at it. She'd be so good at it. Um, to be continued.
Absolutely,
Until
absolutely,
next time.
absolutely. I hope, yeah, to be continued. I was going to say as well, because normally I only do like 1 hour because a lot of people I find don't have the concentration span. But yeah, I couldn't limit it the way that it works. So yeah, I mean, what I will say is thank you very much. It's been a
No,
real
thank
pleasure.
you.
Thanks for having
Yeah.
us.
Always
And-
welcome.
Yeah, invite us back whenever you want.
Well,
Maybe after the season we'll get together
yes.
and yeah, do a how you feeling.
Continuation.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I like that.
I'm excited.
Absolutely,
I'm excited.
yeah. And I will offer again my availability whenever you have a particularly cunning little topic that you'd like us to jump into.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to help out.
We've got such amazing feedback from the episode that you joined us for.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
again, thank you.
Yeah, seriously.
People love it.
Yeah. We were like, yes, we made a good choice.
Yeah, well,
So thank you for being with us for that one.
absolute pleasure. And like I said, I mean, my brothers have commented on how wonderful that episode was, and they never say that about my own episodes. So, there's definitely something in that. Yeah.
That's so sweet. Tell your brothers they said thanks.
Thanks, brothers.
Brilliant.
All right,
All right.
awesome.
Need a clapper.
Okay.
We do. You know what? I was actually going to look for those on Amazon and see if I could get you one.
And
I think you need one, Amber. Maybe I'll include it in this package that I'm someday going to send you. It will happen. I keep adding things to it. I'm like, this is going to cost £1 million, or dollars to send to you. It's fine. It's fine. It's going to happen. Fine.
yeah, but this is what happens when you have a long distance relationship, right? It's
Yeah.
one of those things.
Yeah. But I mean, it's kind of incredible to get to do something like this. And like, I was about to send you a message and be like, I finished writing my essay for your podcast.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to get even halfway through I think these points because there's so much natural conversation that you guys are gonna chuck in. I'm just here to listen and just be entertained by you. So I mean, this
Oh
is a
God,
wonderful
that's
role.
so
for you.
much pressure.
I know, right? I'm like, no, please lead me.
I'm not a performing monkey. There are so many really good questions on here that like I'm kind of eager to answer. Like, we don't talk very much about like any of these things in our show. I mean, we do talk about like our personal beliefs and like what we have lived
Tracy,
through.
should you
and-
save this for
No, no, I'm off and going. Yes,
Okay.
that's a great idea. Stop me before I get started and we're like 50 pages in, you know? Contain me, please.
But I mean, we may even just put. I may even just put this in as a start and say, yeah, this was our intro, and it was complete, completely off script. But that's what you come to expect, right?
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes that's the best part is like having your idea and then like, oh my God, we recorded for our episode that's coming out tomorrow, and part of it is just us talking about the characters in Wheel of Time and which one is like a pothead. Like, which of our friends would definitely be walking around. I think my favorite thing that Amber said was the red eye of the world. Just lost
Well,
it.
there's a long going, like an ongoing joke about Two Rivers to back being like a metaphor.
Right?
So
So funny. It was so funny. So yeah,
Yeah.
off script can be good. I like it.
Absolutely. I mean, but I may just sort of stick this in at the end as not quite as a bloopers round, but just to show people how you are sort of off mic but on mic, that kind of thing. Yeah, we'll see as an improvised piece. We'll
I
see.
like it. Sounds
I'm
great.
okay with that. Yeah.
Yep.
Two.